Welcome to the Practice Podcast, conversations probing the nature of practice. I'm your host, Dave Fearon. There's so many ways that I could introduce this conversation with Zhihui Wang, a former student, of course. Yes, that's what I've been doing in recent time, and I love it. I love having these where are they now kinds of conversations with former students, because it's just in line with the theme of this podcast series, conversations probing the nature of practice. And that nature is human nature. So anytime I want to have a recorded conversation with a fellow human, I'm on the case. I am studying what they bring to themselves and out to the world when they choose something that they want to do better and better indefinitely. And that is certainly true of Zhihui, who, while she has been successful as a student, master's student, and now working in as a technology practitioner in a fine company, her practice that I'm focusing a lot on in this conversation is being a mother. Being a mother during pandemic, being a mother who works and has two beautiful children under the age of 3. So this is a different approach to practice, but it's definitely human. This is Zhihui Wang. Well, folks, I've been looking forward to having a conversation with Zhihui Wang, former student and wonderful person, mother, and also working as an IT practitioner for a local part of a national company. All of that would be of interest to share with you. But what I'll have most fun with, I think, of all, is that once in a while during this conversation, we're going to hear a baby. And her name is Zhihui. What's
Ellie.
Ellie. And how old is Ellie?
She's 4.5 months.
Wow. And I know your other daughter because anytime you posted pictures of Emma, I would put words in her mouth for Facebook comment. Far beyond her years. All very kind, hopefully kind words. But do you remember me doing that?
Yeah, I love that.
Well, cooped up here as we are during the pandemic, you start doing all kinds of things that you probably would have not had time for when we were both working full time. But
that's okay. Totally don't mind.
And Emma is now 2.5?
Yes, 2.5.
Wow. Well, one of the things I surely want to talk to you in regard to practice is the practice of being a mother, a mom. What's the Chinese word for mother that the girls would use?
Mama.
Oh, wait a minute.
I know. Yeah.
Is that universal?
Yes, mama.
Mama.
Yeah.
Well, I've learned something already. And your mama is here from China initially to help out with the birth of your second daughter, Ellie, and she's still here. So she's probably making it such that I won't hear too many baby cries during this conversation. She's probably bouncing her on her shoulder. Well, folks, when this young lady came to my office just at the beginning of a course I was teaching called Introduction to Management, imagine what a course that was. She came to my office, and I hope I'm not making this up now, and said, there's an awful lot of writing in this course and an awful lot of talking in teams. And I just came recently from China. And while I do speak and write English, I'm afraid that I won't be able to do well in this course. And I said, of course not, get out. And I took you off the right. No, but do you remember coming to my office with nervous, a little nervous about the way I taught?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes I don't get your jokes at the beginning, and I always treat every single word that you said very serious, and I get nervous. But after all these years, now I know you.
What do you think the purpose of jokes are, other than me being just a little silly? Do you see that it might have some way of making a connection if they're relatively kind jokes?
Yeah, of course, it actually relaxes the atmosphere. And also, I remember when I did my first internship with DAS Construction, you came in and you told me you were gonna give me a C for the for the intern, and I was scared and also nervous. So you told me to prove you how I could get an A for the internship. That was a joke, right? But at the time, I was very nervous. But
well, I can admit now that I've got to be more careful. Even today, my wife, who's been married to me for 57 years and has known me since the 5th grade, still gets irritated when I try one of my jokes, and she just said, "No, you got to be careful because not everyone gets you." And I thought with you, because you were so polite and had been used to a different kind of teaching altogether than what I was doing, that might have made you turn on your heel and go take another section of the management course with someone who was just lectured so you could take careful notes.
Mm-hmm.
But you didn't. You stayed. Do you remember much about that class?
Yeah. Oh, it's been so long. Please don't quiz me.
What do you remember off the top of your head about that class? Because it connects to what you're doing right now. Teams.
It's been a while. Teams, organization, and definitely communication.
Mm-hmm. Writing, speaking, dealing with things, what I call exercises, where I put you guys together and say, figure this out. You've got 50 minutes to do it. Guest speakers, do you remember that?
Yes.
People coming in from companies like the one you're working for now, Capital Light, Jackie Garashi, and Heather Ulrich and several others. So what I was trying to do back then is what I think you made the very serious commitment to do, to come and earn a bachelor's in business here in the U.S. And it was because I wanted you to get used to what it'll be like in the work world, where while some people have the title manager, which you're well aware of, everyone is managing all the time in regard to how you decide what you're going to do in the next 5 minutes or the next hour or the next day, and then setting a course of action to make that happen. So that's what I was trying to do back then. So now you can tell me, do I get a C for my efforts in being your professor?
Of course not. You get an A+.
But you can give me a C. It's okay.
Right. At the beginning, I thought being a management major, one day I'm going to be a manager, I'm going to manage people. But the more I worked, now I feel like it's not just about managing people, it's also managing projects. A title manager, it doesn't mean anything. You are learning as you go. Nobody is going to work and be like, okay, my first job is a manager.
No, that's well put. And we do these days live by projects. A company like yours, which is in the business of distributing electrical components of many sorts, particularly in your case, lighting systems for large clients like restaurant chains, to having a local drive-in spot. So it's a very interesting business. But some people might say, "Oh, that's all you do is wires and switches." So what's a little bit about your experience in working there? How has it been for you?
So I work in the IT group. I'm also a LAMP admin. So what I do is I look through our preview report every day and I update the lamp guides. So customers will have most up-to-date lamp guides when they go into our system to order lamps.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have other system that I'm not in charge with, but they all teach me a little bit backgrounds of other systems. So I'm not too unfamiliar with it.
So there's a lot of learning in this so-called dull world of lamps.
Of course, yeah, we learn as we go.
Mm-hmm. What in recent time, what was one of the big challenges you think you faced? I think you mentioned before we started the call that you were short-staffed for that particular part of the company. Do you remember what was one of the obstacles that you guys learned your way through to keep things going, keep the lamps lit, if you will?
We still have employees for the lamp department, but they try to cut the people who are the newest, so they don't actually have too much of experience of it. And a lot of our employees, they've been working there for more than 15 years. Mm-hmm. Some of them are been working there for 20 years, which is amazing. Everyone is very familiar with our system, and then they can take the main lead to get things going. But the point for them to having me back or hiring more people now is sometimes there are some tasks which just takes way more time if a salesperson going to do it. So if more people in the team and everyone can help, it gets things to get going quickly. Mm-hmm. Which I think that's been working, because when two people working on the same project and it only takes a couple of days instead of one person has to take a week mm-hmm. to do it, it's more efficient with more people in the teams.
Yeah, and while the pandemic was at its height and the shutdowns occurred, I understand that there wasn't as much demand for upgrading restaurants and department stores and all that. So the lighting demand, I assume, went down.
Yes.
It's hopefully picking up now.
Yes. Right now, we're very busy now.
Yeah.
And all the stores are open and they're trying to get new constructions. Yeah. Things are going a lot better now.
That's great. And there was a hiatus in your career where you went back to Central Connecticut State University and worked in our China Center, didn't you?
Mm-hmm. For Confucius Institute.
Mm-hmm. Yes. How did you like going back to the school that you worked at so hard as a student?
It was great. I was actually a graduate assistant mm-hmm. when I was a graduate student back at Central, and I was pretty much picking up the role. But as a university assistant, I've been working there part-time for half a year until the center closed in July of last year. And I switched to Center for International Office mm-hmm. and started working with the international coordinator, who is May.
Yes. Wonderful person, May. Who worked very hard when the Confucius Institute was established on our campus. And I'm kind of sorry mm-hmm. to hear it closed, but many mm-hmm. things that have external funding, particularly during the pandemic, just couldn't be sustained. Mm-hmm. But our international graduate program probably also took a hit for a while because of the mm-hmm. restrictions of COVID travel and other things.
Mm-hmm. Right. A lot of study abroad programs, we couldn't run it because of the travel mm-hmm. policy.
And the campus was closed mainly, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah.
So that was a bit of a discouraging time. So what you did is went ahead and had two wonderful daughters.
Yeah.
Just to keep yourself occupied.
Yeah. Had two COVID babies.
COVID babies, yeah. Well, I'd like to talk a little bit about what I told you that Peter Vaill, who got me started on this pondering of the nature of practice, he once said that, Dave, oh, by the way, one of the practices that really fits our way of thinking of practice is being a mother, because it takes indefinite commitment, but also many changes and adjustments that have to be made almost sometimes by the hour. When your daughters were infants, the changes in them and what they needed from you probably changed very rapidly. Now maybe they sort of smooth out. But how do I ask you? I'll just ask you, what is it like to be a mother on the best days and the difficult days?
Definitely the second when they were born, I feel very moved.
Mm-hmm.
I had two different feelings with both of my daughters. When Emma was born, I feel strange because she was born and I was looking at her and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, so this is my daughter. I was
next?
nervous and I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to change a diaper. I didn't know how to hold an infant because they're so soft. But when Ellie was born, I feel connected because I have a daughter at home, and at the time we really wanted another daughter who's just like Emma, and luckily they are exactly the same. Sometimes when I look at their pictures, they look exactly the same, and even their hairs are the same. They all like stick up.
I remember Emma originally. She looked like she had electrical shots coming out of the top of her head.
That's Ellie as well.
Yeah. Well, did you perceive a difference though in personality? I mean, 4.5 months is not much personality emerges, but do you sense that there's a difference?
I feel it's very miracle to being sisters, because sometimes when Ellie is crying, as long as Emma goes over and tells her it's okay, Emma's here, Ellie stops crying. So I think it's definitely some connections between sisters.
That's wonderful to observe. Yeah.
Do
you speak both your
Chinese and English? Yeah.
And the girls can learn both. Right.
Emma mainly speaks English because she goes to daycare, but she can understand Chinese. When I speak Chinese to her, she'll react to it, but she'll just use English to respond to me. I have to work on that.
Well, it's lovely if they can be bilingual from a cultural standpoint, and it also, I understand, really helps with brain development if you're learning two languages. Now, the adjustments that you and John had to make, you mentioned daycare and so forth. What is that like to take your small daughter, because you at that time went back to work, and put her in the hands of daycare workers? It must feel, and thousands of mothers do it, so I'm not singling you out, but it's a different kind of part of your motherhood, isn't it?
Right. At the time, I had 2 months of maternity leave, and Emma had to go into daycare when she was 2 months old. I couldn't stop crying the first day she went there. And ever since after she went to daycare, every single day she's sick. She always has a stuffy nose, and we've been to pediatrician every single week, and every time they tell us it's fine, kids get sick, she'll get through it. As long as there is no fever, she's fine. But at the time, it was really tough. Sure. That's why when March of 2020 hit, when COVID just started, I decided to be a full-time stay-home mom with her, because she was only 6 months old, and I really don't want anything happen to her at the time.
Of course.
Yeah.
Now, during the time you were staying at home, you were at the beginning of where Emma was learning a great deal more about life, about language, about herself. It must have been kind of fun to watch her explore things and find out things. And you were there to be a primary teacher.
Yeah, every single step I'm watching it, and I didn't miss anything, and I'm very happy about that. I guess some good part of COVID.
Well, the income was changed when people had to make that commitment, but the benefit of being there when in these critical months when your child is very young is money can't touch that. You can recover money, but you can never recover that time of their
Right.
life.
Right.
Yeah. And now with Ellie, it's different though, because you've had the help of your mother. And was she there with Emma for a while too?
She was with Emma for 2 months, and she went back China. That's when I started to work, and Emma went to daycare. Yeah.
Yeah, but now she's there. Does that help a lot?
Oh yeah, of course. At least Ellie can stay home until my mom goes back China. So she's gonna be home until she's almost 1.
Yeah. And now I wonder if your mother is sneaking a little Chinese language into Ellie's mind, because she would like this. If she's going to be 1, she'll probably have more of an ear for Chinese than Emma.
Yeah. My mom only speaks Chinese, so it's all Chinese to Ellie.
It's so delightful though, because I can still, I'm going back like the old professor. You were a single woman when you came to my class. You had come from a whole other half or all the way around the world. And then when you finished your bachelor's degree, which you did very well with a very solid, what we call GPA, folks, you wanted to stay in the country. And the only way you could do that was to continue to be a student. So you and I talked about that. And we picked out that the operations master's degree at our school might work for the way you're kind of inclined to see things in the world, that you like to see things and how the processes work, projects, all of that. And so you were admitted to that program.
I was very happy that I took that program, technology management. A lot of the concepts that we learned are all about lean management, and I think everywhere needs it. It's like when I was at school, it was just a concept, but when I started working at the company, you always think, okay, how can I make things better? How can I make things more efficient? So one of the things that we do now at my company is I have to manually put the lamps tracking information on our website so customers would see the tracking number. But that's also something that we're working on it this year, because when we buy online shopping, they automatically send us an email about our tracking number. Why do we have to physically sit there and waste half of our day to put in the tracking number every single day? So that's
there's waste, and waste in the lean mind. Waste is, I think the unpleasant word is muda that the Japanese use to describe things that you realize no longer have to be done. You can take a step out of a process. You can certainly save money, and time is money, and you can increase your accuracy, so that if one person was a little lazy in typing in a tracking number and put in the wrong digit,
right,
there goes
would get the wrong information, right?
Yeah. Now there's a kind of an interesting contest though that you're living directly, and that is the onset of artificial intelligence and other applications of computers that it can be used to replace unnecessary human function. That's the one side. The other, however, is that humans tend to like to be employed, and not only employed, but they like to use what their capabilities are. And you're kind of working in the middle of that. On the one hand, you can see the pleasure of reducing the tedious and possibly human error kind of work that technology can replace. But on the other hand, well, they say one day, oh, well, we don't need that third person anymore. We're all set. We can work with 2. So what do you think about that? Are humans going to win? I think that's the big question.
I think definitely no one can replace human, because system is fixed, and the human, we are more we can see things. Everybody have different mindset, and when different people come together, everyone's gonna have their own opinion, which system or technology can never replace.
Hooray for humans. But you're absolutely right. Absolutely right. We can see things, we can understand things in different ways, and we can change much faster than, even though they say that the artificial intelligence is agile and lightning fast as far as making plan changes. It's the unplanned and the uncertain and the lots of uns that I think gives us humans a chance at being useful in employment. So my point is, hooray for uns. And parenting, let's go back to that. While there's a lot of things that you folks do that I'm aware of, because you sometimes post your family celebrations, the girls' birthdays, and so forth. There's a lot of a role in tradition, and there's a lot of role in keeping things as normal and disciplined for the girls' upbringing. But there are surprises too, and uncertainties that you need to be on tap for. What are the sorts of things that keep you surprised about being a mother?
I guess I am. So at the beginning, definitely, I have no idea what I was doing.
So that's a huge surprise right there. Oh my gosh, this little life and me, we have to get along for the rest of my life. Yeah.
Right. And sometimes, especially night times, making them sleep, and also during different months, they have their sleep regression. My older one, Emma, she now has her temper, and sometimes she just does not want to do whatever I ask her to do. And I keep on thinking to myself, what kind of mother I want to be. Do I want to be the mom that yell at my kids and do punishment, time out for them whenever they make a mistake? I've never did any time out or cry out with Emma, because in my deep mindset, I feel like, okay, she is my daughter, but also she had no choice of who is gonna be her mother. I feel like she came to this world nakedly and see this woman and 100% rely on you or trust you to love her for the rest of her life, which is amazing. She came to this world and just rely herself on me. So every single time when I think of that, I just feel like you choose me, so I'm gonna be a good mother for you.
Yeah, no, that doesn't rule out being somewhat strict in certain ways to help someone get a little sense of what my boundaries are. That we teach the kids their boundaries. But I loved what you just said. It was beautiful for both of your daughters, because the abundance of trust that a child gives us is the richest. It's the richest reward I think we get in our lives. It's very hard to feel that you're not meeting their innocence and their trust. But boy, even now, as a parent of 50-some-year-old, they still trust that I'm going to be there, as will be my wife, no matter what. You know.
Right.
It's probably, thank God, one of the ways we've kept the whole world together, in being the parent and the children for the whole of life.
Right. And the same thing with my mom. When I was giving birth to Ellie, my mom came over all the way from China in October of last year. She had to quarantine herself for 14 days in Dubai before she even enters the United States. And now the current policy of traveling back China is you have to arrive at the departure city 7 days before departure day and do 3 times COVID test, and they do another blood test for IgM and IgG. And she's willing to do all those for me without complaining anything.
Amazing. And she has a life in China. It's not like she was alone with his family and friends. And was she working in China when she came over?
She did early retirement for me.
There you go.
Yeah.
The satisfaction of work is something that she set aside. Yeah. Well, that's mom to mom, and now you're teaching your daughters how to be that way too.
Yeah.
What as I'm watching my time clock now, I wonder what you and John are looking forward to in the near future for your family.
Definitely. So Emma is 2.5 now. We want to introduce her some like interests, for example, like sports or instruments. If she's interested, we actually just signed up swimming class for her.
Oh, great.
So she's going to start to learn how to swim in June, at the end of June. We want her to explore as many things as she could. And if she is interested, we are willing to support her.
So that's a big next step.
Right. And long-termly, we also want to do family trips at least once a year. So all of us, we either drive or fly somewhere. Probably drive this year because the little one is too young. But maybe drive to Vermont or somewhere that's not too close, but also not too far. Do some family trips and get our mindset out of the house. I think that's good for overall health.
For all of you, yes. But you have achieved so much. There was a night when you had invited me to Chinese New Year dinner that you were president of the China club at CCSU, and you invited me to the cafe. I think we were in one of the cafeterias to sample Chinese cuisine, and I sat at a table with a nice young gentleman. And we were chatting, and then you came over. You were very busy, and you came over, and you kind of said in a very shy and quiet way, "Oh, yeah, he's my boyfriend." So you take it from that moment where you reveal that he was your boyfriend to today you have a home. You both have good jobs, beautiful kids. Caring parents. I'd say you're really developing a wonderful life for your family.
I still can't believe I came to the United States in 2013, which is almost going to be 9 years. I just can't believe it. When I first came here, I was this girl that doesn't even speak much English. I remember during orientation, like everyone greets to me and they say, "Hey, how's going? Hey, what's going on?" And I didn't even know how to respond to that. And I get nervous. I say that to everybody. I'm not good at English. It's just the only thing that I say to everyone. And I don't have any confidence with anything. I feel like I couldn't achieve any of my courses because I couldn't speak proper English.
Yeah.
And with time changes, I grew up. One day I realized, okay, so I have an accent. So what? It's not like I'm listening to my accent. I'm speaking to other people. So I'm just making other people uncomfortable.
There you go.
So I'm like, okay, that's okay. As long as they can understand me, that's fine.
Yeah.
But it took me a few years to realize you don't have to speak a perfect English to live here.
No, and your English is much, much better than it was way back then.
9 years ago.
But you know what you did? I mean, you could have reached back to your family in China and saying, "Oh, I'm a failure. I'm going to raise some money and I'm going to buy a ticket and I'm going home and I'll finish the rest of my life in China." Why didn't you do that? What made you fight yourself to say, "No, I'm going to stay here, even if I'm uncomfortable for a while"?
To be honest, my parents do want me to go back China because I'm the only child of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
But coming over here making me feel like I really like the life here. Everyone is much more simpler than in China, especially when people talk. I like how everyone here, if they have a opinion, and they will tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And I like to be straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes people being better, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes feel living back home is a lot more complicated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So when I had the chance, I really like to see what I could do here. So I found, well, you actually introduced me to the internship that I did for DIS construction, and I worked at Confucius Institute. I've been working at the cafeteria since the second semester. I was at Central.
That's right.
So all the working experience and all the classmates that I've had make me feel comfortable living here. And I started a family, and
that's
now
right.
we are permanently here.
Well, I am absolutely thrilled that we have a chance to reconnect and that I could share in episode 154 just a taste of what you mean to the world. You certainly mean to me as your very proud former teacher. And maybe one day we'll be back away from COVID. You can you can find a way to get me back to my favorite dumpling meal, because that's the last time we ate together at a restaurant.
Of course. Oh, really?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I've been in closet. I don't know. I've been fixated on dumplings. We never have them, but maybe we can get together over some nice dumplings sometime. Wouldn't that be fun?
Of course. Yeah, I would love that.
Okay, I've already invited myself to a dumpling meal.
That's okay. I wanted to invite you too.
But thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
If you'd like to hear more, listen in on Spotify, Automatic, and Apple Podcasts, or go to enactionresearch.com/podcasts-page. And if you'd like to learn more about social inaction and the nature of practice, head over to enactionresearch.com for more information. Thank you for supporting this show. We look forward to hearing from you soon.